A little over a week ago, I had the opportunity to go to Bungie's studio offices in Washington State and actually try Marathon for myself. I played it over the course of 2 days, roughly 7 to 8 hours total. And after all of that, I gotta be honest, I had a good time. And I wasn't sure I would, considering this was introduced to me as a hero-based extraction shooter with PvPvE elements. And it's also session based. Like, there were a lot of things that when I heard it, it just didn't seem to make sense. And I wasn't sure how they were going to click together. But having played the game myself, I'm actually kind of impressed. It actually is quite fun. It's really well done and put together for what it is right now, which is an alpha. And I'm going to tell you all about it in this video. Quick little disclosure, everything I'm going to be showing you was captured on the second day. I only was allowed to film one of the maps that we were given access to. And because this is an alpha, there's a lot of things that are a work in progress still. Menu items, UI elements, even like some specific weapon effects and things are not finished yet. So just be aware of that. What you're seeing is very much in development footage. So don't like jump to conclusions that this is the launch version. It should and will look significantly different when it launches. Hopefully all in good ways, but I just want to be clear about that. Having said that, I also want to say thank you to Bungie for the opportunity to try the game early. And I also want to let you know that as we go through this video, I'm going to be mentioning a lot of stuff that, of course, we were told directly by them, but also that I found out from like the game director who had lunch with us, from some of the senior designers who had lunch with us at our table as well. It was a really cool experience to just be able to ask the game director himself, like, hey, why does this effect work this way? Why does this not work? Why can I not take this item from here and put it over here? And then to actually get the answer in real time. So we're going to talk about all of this stuff. Just know I've taken many copious notes. They actually provided a notebook for us to take notes in because I think they knew that's what was going to happen. And also when we showed up at the studio, we had to lock our phones into these metal lockers in the lobby. So from the moment we walked in at like 9 a.m. until we left at like 6 or 7 p.m., we just didn't have our phones and were totally isolated, which was honestly kind of cool. It let us just like totally focus on the game. But having said all of this, we're going to get into it. I'm going to show you some gameplay and explain first and foremost how the game actually works, what you'll be doing moment to moment. And then we're going to talk about some of the things that I don't like and some of the things I really do like. And then we're going to wrap it all up with a discussion over the pricing. Yes, cosmetics, monetization, all of that stuff, which I did ask them about a lot. So buckle up, buckaroo, here we go. The basic gameplay loop of Marathon is as follows. When you load into a match from the main menu, you start by selecting your hero. It's my understanding that at launch, there will be 6 heroes for you to choose from. We had access to 4 of them, and they all have their own different play styles associated with them. We'll go through these in more detail later because I think they do need a good amount of adjustment, but all I will say is that Locust is your brute class character. He's all about getting into the action, confronting enemies head on, and he even has an ultimate that launches rockets, which should explain just exactly how you're supposed to play this guy. Glitch is a character that's all about speed. She has different abilities and even an ultimate that allows her to move very, very quickly. She's all about flanking and playing tactically. Void was my main for most of my playtime after trying the other characters, and he has a bunch of abilities that allow him to pop invisibility, throw smoke grenades down, etc., etc. And then there's Blackbird, who is basically this game's version of Bloodhound, with all sorts of abilities that allow them to scan the environment and see which types of enemies are where. And this was the first thing that was kind of jarring to me, which is that I didn't expect this, but Marathon is much more similar to Apex Legends than I thought it would be. Like everything from the movement to some of the gunplay to the heroes themselves all take heavy inspiration from Apex characters and Apex design decisions, even down to the shielding mechanic, which is basically identical. And don't get me wrong, I'm here for it. I'm totally okay that like Locust shares an ultimate basically with Valkyrie in Apex, and Glitch is basically Octane, and Blackbird is basically Bloodhound. Like that's all totally fine. I like Apex a lot, and it's really sad to see what's happened to it recently, but I didn't expect that. I didn't expect Marathon of all games to scratch an Apex Legends itch that I was having. So make of that what you will. But if you liked Apex, I think you'll actually really dig what they're doing here in Marathon. Once you've selected your hero based on the abilities and also stats that they have, because they do have unique stats for each of them, you will then build out your loadout like in any other extraction shooter. You choose which guns, which backpacks, which shields, which healing packs you want to bring with you. All of these have different values and ranks, so you know when you go into a match whether you're bringing roughly 3,000 credits worth of items, or if you're bringing in nothing more than a pistol and a knife, in which case you're bringing in maybe 100 credits worth of items. This is very core to extraction shooters just in concept. They want you to always be questioning whether or not you should bring more stuff to be better prepared for engagements, even though that means that you also will have more stuff to lose if you lose that engagement even still. So it's a constant balancing act of like, do I bring that? I love my sniper rifle, but if I bring it and we die, I'm gonna lose it forever. That's gonna suck. So you're always going back and forth and considering that. And I mean, that really is at the core of this. And it's at the core of it for all players, because if you happen to be the one doing the killing and you take out another team, you get all of their stuff if you want it. You pick it up and carry it out with you. So for their really bad day, you get a really good day, but it's true both ways. You know, it's again, at the core of extraction shooters, and it's very much core here. Once you have your loadout, you select the map that you want to play in. Again, I only have footage of one map, but there will, at least in theory, be 3 maps at launch. They told us the size of these maps is pretty well set, but they are determining still and balancing still how many teams are going to start each match together. One of the smaller maps, they said there might be as few as 3 or 4 teams that start that match on that map. Other maps, they said there could be as many as 6 to 8 teams. However, this is still being balanced, so it could change after the closed alpha playtests that they do with the public. It could also change a week before launch. We don't know. But once you've selected the map that you want to drop into, you also will select which faction quests you want to complete. These are optional secondary objectives to just extracting, and they can be completed to increase your reputation with factions. These factions are basically like individual vendors, if you think of it that way, for skills and then also items, and they provide long-term permanent improvements to your account that will carry over whether or not you have gear that travels with you. You could lose everything you have in terms of like the vault and gear and still carry these improvements over. And they could be things like improving stamina management. They could be things like having the ability to buy a better backpack in the game shop with credits, things like that. So there's a reason to complete these faction quests, and it allows you to focus on specific objectives in those matches besides just survive for a little bit, get some stuff, and get out before the timer runs out. Once you've done that, you load into the map with you and your team. They said they do plan on allowing players to go in solo if they want. You could go in with nothing but a knife and just you, no teammates or anything, and they want you to be allowed to do that. It's incredibly difficult. They said that that's not recommended that you do, but it is something that they will let you do if you see fit. It's also my understanding that they will let you go in with a partial team. You basically just turn off the team fill option. So you could go in duos as well. But to be clear, you will be playing against other 3-player teams. There's not like a duos mode and a solos mode. As of right now, the entire game is balanced around trios. Once you're in the match, everybody starts at the same time on randomized points on the map. There is a 25-minute timer, and you have until then to extract. If you don't extract by the end of that 25 minutes, what happens is all of the extraction points for individual teams, which have their own extraction points throughout the map, they all get cleared, and there's only one extraction point at the center of the map for everybody that still remains to get out of. And it's also overrun with like android enemies and world hazards and stuff. So it's incredibly difficult to get out at that point, but it is still technically possible. What do you do in these 25 minutes though? Well, you explore the map, you look for other teams, or not, maybe you avoid other teams, but your goal is to complete those faction quest objectives and to collect as much cool stuff as possible and get out with it. Some teams will no doubt be all about the action, chasing down other teams and clearing them to take their stuff, while other teams I can imagine playing very stealthily. You see, they allow you to take up to 3. I mean, you could have an entire team of just void characters, for example, who have abilities to like go invisible, pop smoke grenades, things like that. Or if you want to just go run and gunning, you could all run with Locust, who has a bunch of combat focused abilities where you just charge at enemy teams and clear them that way. It's up to the players to decide, but if you want to take 3 of the same exact character, you can do that. And that leads to really interesting sort of asymmetric encounters where maybe you have a team of locusts who are just charging down people, shooting at them, trying to kill them that way. And then on the receiving end is a team of voids, and they all pop invisibility and sneak away, leaving them wandering through a building looking for the voids when they're long gone, having extracted a few minutes ago. And I honestly really like it. I do think that balancing these characters is going to be a challenge, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes because one of the characters I think is just straight up broken right now, but they are actively balancing it as we speak. So by the time they do play tests, it might not even be an issue. But assuming you do get away from that other team that's hunting you down, you extract out of a set objective point, and then you go back to the main menu, you see what you collected, you sell off the items you don't need, and you buy new items that you do need, or maybe you complete new faction quests that unlock new things in the shop for you to build out your loadout even better. And then the cycle repeats. You select maybe the same map or a different map, and you just change your loadout a little bit and you go back in. It's pretty straightforward, and it's exactly what you would expect if you are familiar with extraction shooters. But perhaps if you're not familiar with extraction shooters, I should clarify what happens if you do not extract. If that team of locusts chased you down and wiped your entire team, you're just dead. Game over, Red Rover. All of your stuff in your backpack, your guns, all of that stuff, it's all gone forever. Either the other team will take it, or if they extract leaving stuff in these duffel bags that drop on your body, it's just gone. It clears out when the server resets and you never get it back. And this is at its core the bread and butter of extraction shooters. The idea that for one team, they can have the highlight of their evening play session. Like if they're playing for 3 hours, this one match could be the highlight of all of it that makes that night worth it for them. If they kill that one team that had a purple sniper rifle, all these crazy attachments, they were extracting with a super valuable specimen of some sort that's going to be worth 2,000 credits by itself, and you loot them, you take it, you extract, it's the high point of your night. But it's also the low point of their night. Like the receiving end of that, they're not happy. They lost their purple sniper rifle. They lost their super valuable specimen. They're having a terrible night at that point. So it's always this sort of tug of war of keeping players happy and interested because they're getting rewarded for doing well, and then also hoping that they don't rage quit when they lose something they really, really valued. How you balance that is, I mean, it's well above my pay grade, and they're trying to figure that out as we speak at Bungie, balancing this out. But there's a reason why people really like extraction shooters, because when it works, that high point is worth 10 low points. And that moment where you find the amazingly powerful weapon that somebody was carrying that they loved and cherished so much that they lost because you sniped them out of nowhere, that moment for you is worth 10 rounds where you lose a ton of stuff. That's at least the hope. That's the goal. I will say, though, that having played this game a good amount over 2 days, it's very easy to spiral quickly. The game doesn't totally depend on better loot winning every single encounter. This isn't like in Apex, for example, where if you run into somebody with a Kraber who can snipe relatively well, you're just screwed. You're just not going to win that unless you can push them or something. It's not like that, but having better shields or something, or better gear, more healing items and things like that is a game changer. I mean, it actually does make that team far more difficult to wipe. And as a result, if you start to spiral and lose one match and then 2 match, and then you're like, okay, am I tilted right now? I'm going to not bring anything but a starter pistol. And you go into the matches and you have no healing, no shield, no nothing, because you don't want to potentially lose it. You're just going to keep getting curb stomped by the people that are bringing that stuff. Now, again, you could go into a match, get the jump on somebody, take their stuff, and you go from rags to riches in 5 minutes. And that's a really significant high point for players, I'm sure, but it's really tough to balance the game that way because you want to reward them for having better gear and better loot and for risking that by bringing it into the match. But you also want to reward players who go in there and are risking less, but are just, going into a more difficult situation and hoping that they can make something of it. It's very difficult to balance. There's no question about that. But I will say this game, it was clear that it's easy to spiral. There was a team sitting behind us, and I will not mention who was in that team because I guarantee you know some of them, but they started spiraling pretty hard at one point on the first day. They said they lost like 8 matches in a row, and they were just not really having that much fun, frankly, because it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. All the teams they were playing were bringing good items with them, and they were going in with literally nothing but like knives and daggers. and they were getting curb stomped every single time they encountered another team, unless they got really lucky with loot drops immediately. Maybe it's a skill issue, maybe it's not, but either way, I just want to bring that up, that it is a problem that's in most extraction shooters, that tilting, spiraling thing, and it's present here as well for sure. But all I can say is that for me, I actually had a really good time with the game. Again, we played it for 2 days, and I would play more of it right now if I was given the option, which I cannot say for every game I've done a preview event for. I've told some people about this, but I did a preview event for Skull and Bones back in the day, and at that preview event, they gave us access to the game remotely, where we played it through like cloud whatever streaming, and we played it for like 5 hours, and after like a solid 90 minutes, even the hosts of the gameplay session, like the PR people or whatever, were bored out of their minds, and we're like, so I guess we could do Q&A or so. Do you want to do the quest again? Because there's like 3 quests repeated over and over. People were miserable and very, very bored. That was not the case at this one for Marathon. People are having a really good time, and again, if I could play more of it now, I would in an instant. I had a good time. And maybe it's just because it reminded me so much of Apex Legends, surprisingly enough, but I did have a good time. And I think that that really is the bellwether for most of these games. It's either fun or it's not, and I had fun. But one thing I do want to bring up is the fact that this game, because it is balanced around 3-player teams, it is very dependent on the team you're bringing. I happen to be playing with 2 wonderful other content creators, Waylon, who does a lot of Rust content. You can look him up. Super incredibly nice guy, and also Natasha, who is a streamer that covers like a lot of Call of Duty stuff, also very talented and skilled gamer that basically carried us, and we had a great time. We had relatively good chemistry and dynamics as a team. It took us a few matches to figure out our groove, because I think most of us were trying to play the game like Call of Duty, which is not how you play this game at all. It's much slower, more tactical, more methodical, but once it clicked for us, we actually had a lot of synergy and it worked well. But the reason I bring this up is because if you're trying to match with randoms in this game, I think that could be kind of miserable. Like, I will just be honest, it's not the easiest game to just jump into with different play styles. You have to all kind of make concessions and meet each other where they're at and work together very actively. Playing with randoms, at least right now, I think would be quite difficult. So we'll see if they can improve like communication systems, or maybe there's like a ranked system that can help you get match made with better people. But it's, as of right now, probably not a game you'd want to fill with randoms. And yes, I will talk more about ranked in a couple of minutes, because they did bring that up a couple of times. Yes, a ranked mode in an extraction shooter. What does that even mean? I'll tell you the little that they could tell me, but again, we'll get to that in just a minute. But now we'll get to the point where I'll talk about some of my notes and some of the things I liked and didn't like, and that I hope that they change and make improvements towards. To be clear, I've already brought all of this up with game designers at Bungie, so everything I'm about to go through, I've already communicated directly to them, and other people communicated the same things to them. Everybody was kind of on the same page with most of these things. So it's not really, you know, I'm not surprising anybody, but I'm putting it in the video just so you're also aware of these things. And if you are trying to decide whether or not you want to try to sign up for the closed alpha playtest that they're doing, you can go into it having a better idea of some of this stuff. The first thing, like I alluded to earlier, is the characters and heroes balancing. Locust is just kind of busted. I think he's probably right now the meta. Most of the really talented and skilled players that they brought in, the streamers that play mostly Tarkov, Valorant, and other competitive shooters like that, they overwhelmingly stuck with Locust for at least 2 of their team slots, with usually a Blackbird as one of the support characters. Blackbird is the character that's very similar to Bloodhound in Apex Legends. They have the ability to pop like an ultimate that scans the environment for where enemies are. Also, I think probably part of the meta, most likely the best team loadout is to bring 2 Locusts and 1 Blackbird, so you get positioning information, and then the Locusts can push while the Blackbird snipes. I think that's probably the best current team lineup that you could take with you, but if I were offering specifics, I would just say that Locust needs to have some of his abilities tuned down. He's able to double tap shift so that he's able to sprint with basically a rocket boost at the same time, which makes him faster than Glitch, which is the character that's meant to go fast. He also has the ability to pop a shield, which is very, very powerful, especially against enemies that are in hallways or tight corridors. And then he also can run while doing that shield movement, which also just feels totally busted. It's like if Jibby in Apex were able to pop his shield and then just sprint at full speed towards enemies while also launching a Valkyrie rocket blast. It's just kind of crazy and I think overpowered. And it's a sentiment that was echoed by the game director himself, Joe Ziegler, who said, and I quote, "At lunch, yeah, Locust is broken." Like, we were sitting at lunch and I was like taking notes on what he was saying, because he's describing like how they're going to do the ranked mode and how they want to do this and why weapon attachments work the way they do. And then he's like, yeah, and Locust right now, he's really powerful. I think he's just totally busted. I think he's broken. I was like, okay, well, there you go. I appreciate the candor, but it means that they're aware of it and they're balancing, so I'll give them that. Glitch as a character is all about speed. She's basically the octane of this game, and I appreciate some of that. It's really fun for quick positioning to be able to sprint around, but most of her faster speed is tied to her ultimate ability, which is on like a 5-minute cooldown, which is crazy. And she's not that much faster than all of the other characters, even when not ulting. In fact, Locust can actually move further faster than her. So I feel like Glitch needs an overhaul and needs to be at least more similar in structure to somebody like Octane in Apex. Just something so that she's able to quickly pivot and run around enemies, and, repositioning without having to wait for an ultimate ability to do it. Void, like I said earlier, was my main for most of the gameplay. Most of the footage you've been seeing is of a Void character. He's just really good. I really liked his playstyle. Being able to pop invisibility, flank enemies, pivot around them was really cool. He's not totally invisible when he pops this. You can see other teams when they use this F ability to pop the invisibility. It sort of creates like a ghostly apparition outline if you're moving too quickly while it's popped. But if you're moving very slowly while crouched, it's very difficult to see you. So it works the way that you would expect. But if you have a keen enough eye, you'll still be able to spot somebody even when they pop the invisibility. Void also has the ability to jump down from high points and slam down with a smoke grenade, voiding out the fall damage, which is quite aggressive in this game, which is also a really fun tactical choice to have. And Void also has a really powerful smoke grenade sort of thing that they can use as their ultimate ability, which is really useful if you want to cover up the extraction point while you're waiting for that to count down. And then there's Blackbird, who, like I said, is probably part of the meta just for positional awareness and enemy location awareness. Blackbird also has a little sort of robot that they can throw out that tracks enemies and then blows up next to them, which is really useful for flushing enemies out of cover if they're trying to be really sneaky and snipey. It's just a cool little ability that I like. But here's the thing, the characters imbalancing is relatively easy to do. They just have to turn some knobs to get it working right. And that's why they're also doing the alpha play tests, because they want to get player feedback and find out what's working and what isn't. That's exactly what you would hope to see in a game like this. Instead of like a Concord where you just launch it as is and go, okay, we're done. They're actually taking that feedback from people and working from there, which I think is a great way to do it. Another thing I feel like I need to mention is that the maps feel way smaller than I thought they would be. It means that there is a lot of action in the matches. I mean, in 25 minutes, you're probably going to see just about every team that loaded into that match. But it also means that there's hardly any downtime while you're exploring maps for looting and other things. You're always in danger, which I can appreciate, but it also means the maps are small enough that you're going to get to know these really well after just a few hours on each. Like I said, we played over the course of 2 days. Most of the first day was on one map, and then the second day was on another map. And I feel like I know those maps quite well after just the like 7-8 hours we spent. And I have to wonder, like, if we're talking about a game that's going to launch with just 3 maps, how long until they get stale? Like, especially, it's not clear what they're going to do in terms of regular map updates, if they're going to be doing things to really shake it up. They didn't really have clear answers on that. They did say there is a 4th map coming that's going to be for end game players, like late game players, where the minimum, like standard loadout, they said would be purple gear, which we didn't even really see. So I imagine that there's going to be, some challenging stuff offered too, but I will say the maps were smaller than I thought they'd be, and there's not that many of them, which is going to be interesting to see if it's enough to keep things, compelling and dynamic and different. I do like how the maps change weather systems, and there's different sort of POI effects and things, to not get too spoilery on each of them. So there are things that change from map to map, but it doesn't change the fact that the buildings are the same buildings. The structure is the same structure. Everything's laid out the same. Yeah, it's raining now versus sunny and clear, but it's still the same map. Another thing I want to bring up is the stamina or heat meter. This overwhelmingly was the most criticized thing at the event in this alpha build. Literally everybody I talked to was frustrated by this damn meter. It basically is their stealth meter. As you sprint, jump, slide, things like that, you build up this heat meter, and once it fills up, you have to wait for it to cool down before you can sprint again. There's certain like stat effects, grenades, different things that can affect that heat meter that enemies can deal towards you, which I think is part of the reason why it works the way that it does. But it's no doubt that this is a game where the movement feels pretty good. And there's moments where you're engaging in a fight with another team and you just want to quickly get behind this crate and reposition. But if you're out of the stamina, if your heat has risen too high, you're like, okay, I'm running. And then you get killed because like you didn't realize that the status effect had built and then you got down. It's really, really frustrating. And it's something pretty much everybody brought up at lunch, at the feedback session that we did where they asked us like in sort of a panel interview what we thought of the game and if we had any notes. Pretty much everybody agreed that this needed significant overhauls, and it's tied to long-term progression. They did say that you can improve like how quickly the heat cools down, how much heat can build up. So they did say that there's like long-term skills and things you get from those faction quests and upgrades that will fix this and help with it, but I think right now it's just way too aggressive. To borrow a line that I heard a few people bring up, Esports Center on TikTok brought it up, and one of the developers was like, oh yeah, we've said that internally a lot. He said, all of the characters are called runners, but it feels like most of the game we're just walking, which I think is fair. It feels really weird to be these like robotic, cool android humanoid creatures, but then to be walking everywhere because you overheat if you sprint. And if you get jumped, you need to have stamina so you don't risk it and you just walk everywhere. You can swap to your knife and you move faster, but you still build up heat the same speed, but it still feels weird, you know? So this is something I do want them to adjust, and I think they will. Another thing to bring up is that you can't actually remove attachments on weapons once they're equipped to that weapon. This got really frustrating because I had like 3 different sniper rifles, and at one point I dragged a scope in my inventory. I was trying to like rearrange it, and I dragged the scope and let go of it on top of one sniper rifle that didn't have any other attachments. And I was like, oh, I didn't mean to put it there. I'll put it on the sniper rifle that I have the other attachments on, like the improved whatever it was, magazine or something. But I couldn't do that. So now I just had one sniper rifle with a scope on it, and then the other sniper rifle with a ton of other attachments on it, and I couldn't do anything. Like it was just stuck. I couldn't disassemble the sniper rifle to remove the scope. It couldn't even like destroy it in the process. You're just stuck. And they told me why it works this way. And apparently it's because they don't want you to like load your backpack up with a sniper rifle and then use a bunch of attachments that you found on a dead player's body, move them into that sniper rifle and extract with that basically as a mini backpack within your backpack to carry even more attachments and stuff. But I just like, I get why, but I think just reward the player for doing that. If they're sneaking out with a massive sniper rifle in their backpack, reward them with getting to bring out the attachments and put them where they want them to go. So this is one where I understand the reasoning. I just don't like it. So I want to be able to remove attachments from weapons. Otherwise, it's infuriating to have an attachment accidentally pop it on this weapon, and now you just can't use that at all, basically. Because either you have to find 3 other attachments to make that one weapon as good as the other one, or you just give up on the scope and just focus on the weapon with the other attachments. It's really infuriating, and I hope that they change that. But that brings me to the big money question at the end of all of this, which is, how much does this game cost? I'm glad you asked, because I asked, and they wouldn't tell me. I asked like 3 different people. I asked one of the AI engineers, and he said, oh, I know how much it costs. I'm not going to tell you though. I was like, okay, fair enough. I asked the game director, also wouldn't tell us. I asked one of the senior designers, also wouldn't tell us. I even asked one of the PR people that didn't even work at Bungie, worked at like a separate company. And he said he knew how much it was going to cost, and he wouldn't tell us. So maybe when they do the gameplay reveal, which is like in 2 days from when I'm filming this, maybe they're going to reveal the price then. And future Luke will know, but as of the time I'm filming this video, I don't know how much they're charging for it. I don't know if it's 40. I feel like if it was free to play, they would have told us. And they sort of slyly said, I know how much it costs, which implies it has a cost and it's not free to play. So I would imagine it's somewhere between 40 and 70. Frankly, for me, 70 feels aggressive for this. Like I said, the maps are really small and you're going to get to know them very, very quickly. And even then, there's going to be other monetization in this game that we'll talk about in a second. I think 70 would be aggressive for this, just being transparent and honest. And that's a sentiment I know a lot of other people I spoke to that were playtesters as well. They also echoed that sentiment where they're like 40, maybe. Yeah, I could see that. 70. So we'll see. But I would heavily recommend to them to not push it that hard, because when you add in other monetization and there's not that much in terms of dynamic or scope, it feels like that's a little much, but I don't know anything more than that. As for secondary monetization elements, such as paid cosmetics and things, I did ask them about that. However, whenever any of us would ask any of the team at Bungie about like an in-game store, for example, they wouldn't tell us what they were doing. They would simply say, what would you like to see? What would you expect to see? And I can understand that they want to know what we would expect. They don't want to tell us what they're thinking before like hearing us out, I guess. But they wouldn't be specific. They said they're thinking of doing skins, of course, what they would call shells, basically different looks for the little android characters. They did make it clear to us, though, that they did not want to do cosmetics that were going to break the artistic integrity of the game, I think is the phrase that they used. Basically, they don't want to run into like the Call of Duty problem where they have neon pink unicorn skins for everything. They said they still want each and every shell or skin to feel like it exists in this world and it's not totally out of place, which for me, I like. As much as I would love a Bigfoot skin in Call of Duty or something, I do think that something is lost when you just start selling anything and everything for the sake of a quick buck. So hearing them say that they want to keep the art style integrity intact, I appreciate that. But they mentioned skins, they mentioned things like little bitty trinkets hanging from weapons, stickers you could maybe put on your character's helmet or hands or the weapon itself. They mentioned things like that. They also mentioned multiple times a battle pass, which again is why I feel like doing $70 and an in-game store with all these cosmetics and a battle pass, I think we're pushing the boundary a little bit. If it's 40 or 30, okay, we can talk, but I do want to just bring that up, that it seems like they either don't have the monetization settled yet, or they do and they didn't want to tell us about it. Make of that what you will. One other thing I will give them credit for is that they have announced in the last week or so that the game will apparently not require a PSN account on PC or Xbox. And it will support full cross-play and cross-progression, meaning you could play on your PC and then move over to your family room and keep playing on the TV on your Xbox and carry the saves across. And I think that's really cool, especially after all the Helldivers stuff. I wasn't sure if PlayStation was going to force them to do PSN account stuff here. It would have been just frankly really, really freaking funny if they had made people sign up for a PSN account while playing on Xbox. I mean, that would have been hilarious, but they're not, apparently. They're going to allow you to just play it with your Bungie account, which I'm sure shares all of your data with PlayStation regardless, but I'll give them credit where it's due. But having said all of this, it goes back to the core question with all of these game previews and playtests. Did you have fun and would you play again? And for me, the answer is an unequivocal yes. I had a good time. There are definitely things I would change, and there were things that were frustrating and things that need tweaking, sure. But it's an alpha playtest. It would be really, really weird if things were perfect and super polished out the ass everywhere. Like, it's an alpha. Things are going to change. And they made it clear multiple times that they anticipate things changing, and they want player feedback to inform those choices and changes, which is exactly what you should hope to see for a game like this. Speaking of hoping to see, though, I hope to see more information about the ranked mode and about this fourth level that's coming after launch. You see, when we first arrived at the studio, they asked us to go into the Bungie theater where they do sort of group presentations for all the devs. We all loaded into that theater, and then they did like a little talk just telling us basically what was going to happen while we were there, kind of itinerary, we're going to be playing on this map, blah, 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 normal stuff. But they said their goal for Marathon was to make it a revolution in the extraction shooter space. Like, this was going to be a revolutionary project. And I asked one of the senior designers at lunch that day what he thought was revolutionary about the game, because I was like, there's a lot of cool ideas. They're bringing little bitty things in from all these other games, but what is revolutionary? And he told me, I think the ranked mode and that fourth map will be really revolutionary. The fourth map comes after launch. I don't know if they're going to charge for it separately or if it'll be a free update. I don't think they know yet. They also refused to show us anything about it. They said it was going to be really cool. It's going to break your brain. It's going to blow you away. There's all sorts of really cool meta things going on. They're very excited about it. That was very, very clear, but they wouldn't tell us anything about it. So I have no reason to be excited about it besides their excitement for it. And then the ranked mode, I asked them about as well. I asked the game director about it. I asked one of the senior designers about it. And I kid you not, they had like nothing really clear to say. I asked them about it and I was like, so is it coming at launch? And they said, yeah, I think we're planning on getting it out at launch. Maybe we do a buy-in where it's like, in order to load into silver lobbies, you have to have a loadout worth 3,000 credits or 4,000 credits or 5,000 credits. Gold lobbies, platinum lobbies, whatever it is, those higher lobbies require even greater buy-in. So it's super high risk, high reward to grind it. I was like, okay, that could be cool. Also really infuriatingly frustrating because if you lose that stuff and you have like super S tier endgame items and that all goes to another one of the S tier guys that's been grinding forever to get that gear because he won the ranked match, that I could imagine also would be super infuriating and also would like destabilize it because now they lost like 20% of their total character's value worth of goods because they lost that ranked match. So they were like, we're still going back and forth with ideas. We don't really know exactly how it'll work. It could be totally different than that, but these are our ideas. And that brings me to maybe the biggest point with all of this is that they told us this game is launching in September. And if you're watching this video, it's after the gameplay reveal. And so you know that as well. That's like 5 months away. And they told us that they hope to have the ranked mode done by then, but they can't tell us like anything about it because I don't think they know anything about it because they're still designing it. So like it's fine if it comes after launch. Just tell me that. Like that's why I asked them, is it coming before launch or after launch? They weren't really clear, but that means that the two things that they're most excited about, if it is delayed till after launch, that means that the ranked mode and that fourth map both are coming after it launches. And those are the two things they consider to be revolutionary that set this game apart. And I'm sorry if like the thing that sets your game apart is a promise of content in the future. I feel like I'm justified in being like, okay, well then why not delay it? Why not push it back until you have that stuff in the package day one? It feels weird to buy your game with the promise of the revolutionary thing that justifies it coming later. You know, I think what they have now, what we played, is a good time. It's a fun game. I don't think it's worth 70 personally, but I could see buying it for 30 or 40 and having a good time with friends playing through it. But if you're telling me like the coolest stuff that you're going to bring to the table is coming probably after launch, that's just weird to me. And it reaffirms something that I heard throughout my time at the studio, which is them continuing to say the game was very early. They're still early in development, that things are going to change a lot because they're early, stuff like that. And again, they're 5 months out of launch. So that to me does not sound very early. You know, I start to get the feeling like maybe this is going to be a mad rush at the end to get this game done. Maybe Sony was just like, we have to get it out before GTA Online. Figure it out, put it out by September, whatever is ready at launch, put it out and just go from there. I get the feeling like they're being pushed and rushed just a tad. They have been working on this game for like a solid 6 years. And I mean, even Dr. Lupo was saying that he consulted on this for like 5 to 6 years. And, you know, you can tell there's a lot of feedback and a lot of careful consideration and stuff, but it feels like some of these big important things like the ranked mode are coming together kind of haphazardly at the end. And that just gives me pause because I would have thought 5 months out of the launch of a massive game like this, they would at least be able to tell me how the ranked mode will work. And as of right now, they don't know how it works either, which is weird. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't buy things on the promise of what it will be in the future. You should buy it based on what it is today. What the game is today, I think, is a fun game. I had a good time. I don't think what they have here is necessarily revolutionary, though. They say that the ranked mode and that fourth map will be revolutionary, but it seems like that's coming at a later date, in which case I would just say only like buy this game if what it is seems interesting. Don't buy it on the promise of what it will be. Okay, that's all I'm saying. But again, I just want to say thank you to Bungie for the opportunity to play test it and to check out the game. I had a really good time, and again, I'm pleasantly surprised at how much I liked it, and I'm excited to see what the game looks like when it all comes together in the later play tests and in the eventual launch version as well. And who knows, maybe they will come together and figure all of this out and launch with ranked mode and all this crazy stuff. Maybe it's all going to come together very suddenly at the end, but we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if that ranked mode ends up getting pushed back till after launch, because I don't know, it just seems like it would be surprising if they could throw it together this quick, but maybe they can. They are wizards after all. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you for watching. Thanks for making my dreams a reality every second of every day. It's amazing I get to do this for a living, and I owe that all to you guys who watch the videos, subscribe, and like, and all that good stuff. So truly, truly, thank you. But again, guys, if you have any questions about Marathon, I stream over on my second channel, Luke Stevens Live. Links in the link tree below. Head over there. I mean, I might be streaming at this very moment when you're watching this. So if you have any questions about Marathon, if you're like, oh, I wonder what this gun is like, I wonder what this is, I might know. So just come in and ask in chat. I would love to see you. But with that said, thanks for watching. Love y'all. See you soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.